And welcome back to Space Plex Vintage Game Room. I'm your host, Juan Cena, and with me, as always, is Luke Martin. How you doing tonight, Luke?
Doing great.
All right, fantastic. I dig that. On this episode, we're going to take a look at Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles for the arcade. Now, this game was released in 1989. It was published by Konami. It is one of the four really good Konami beat-em-ups that came out at the time. The other three being The Simpsons, X-Men, and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, Turtles in Time. Now, this game is a four-player co-op that I think really kind of ushered in a new golden age of arcade beat-em-ups at the time. I mean, prior to this, they had such games as Vigilante and Shinobi, Double Dragon, but I think this game really kind of upped the ante for the genre, and it took a licensed property, which historically video game makers have not really done all that well with, and made a really kick-ass game. Now, you can be one of four turtles. Obviously, you have Leonardo, Michelangelo, Donatello, and Raphael, and you go through various levels and fight waves and waves of foot soldiers. And then there's bosses at the end of the level, so they're like Rocksteady and Bebop, individually, and then as a duo, Baxter Stockman, General Trag, Krang, and then eventually you get to Shredder himself, who is a cheap bastard in this game. He clones himself, and then it's ridiculous. You do have special moves. This game is ridiculously hard. Again, it's an arcade game, so its intention is to suck as many quarters as humanly possible. There are some power-ups, like there's some pizzas that give some health, but there's not a whole lot throughout the game. Some of the stages are a little cheap, but again, they get to pass because it is an arcade game. I mean, graphics are really good for the time, 1989, by the way. Probably not as good as maybe like a Final Fight, but still really good all on its own. The gameplay is amazing. The controls are spot on. Character art is fantastic, so that's really good. Again, the four-player co-op, what makes this game. You would see this game everywhere when it came out. So you have it in your arcades, obviously, but you would see it at pizzerias, you would see it at 7-Elevens, you would see it at movie theaters. Back when movie theaters had arcade games, and I think overall it's a really good game, and it really kind of ushered in a new golden age of arcade games during this time. So, Luke, what are your thoughts on Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles for the arcade?
It definitely was a huge deal, and it was like just playing it now, I mean, it's ridiculously hard. You can't avoid some things, and there's no way to block. You will like just fight a boss, and he'll just like punch you, and there's nothing you can do about it. So you will die. Like, it's just inevitable. And then there was always like the big awkwardness is like, who gets the pizza? Do not be the motherfucker that gets the pizza with full health. Don't
be that motherfucker.
Because you did that shit on accident. That's a lie. That is a fucking lie. You jumped up on that ledge. You knew it was up there.
It's funny. There used to be lines, and people would have to pick their favorite turtle. So
a lot of people, like you said, like Michelangelo, right? But he wasn't very good in the game, and neither was Raphael. Like Leonardo and Donatello were better because their weapons had a longer reach.
Agreed.
And especially with Donatello, because you can like throw people with your stick, and that's like super useful. So it wasn't. Sometimes it was just I do remember being a kid. So I was like 4 in 1989.
Yeah.
And so 5 in 1990. And I remember going to arcade, and like you said, this is kind of like arcades had been like really popular in the early 80s, and they had dipped, and then like Street Fighter, all these games started coming out, and then Turtles and like games started coming out again, like started happening again as the 90s picked up. So I remember being in the arcade at the mall, and like my uncle had taken me to the arcade. I remember they had to get me a stool because I wasn't tall enough to see over the deck, and then and we're playing the game, and I remember this like huge line of people like watching me and like waiting to play the game.
Yeah.
So it was like that. I don't really remember anything like that later on. Now, obviously, when I'm little, my perspective is different, but it was just neat because people were like excited, like it was community. They're like, oh, like like watching the game, and it wasn't just like nerdy, weird, random people. It was like normal, young people, like adults or whatever. It wasn't just like
again. This is one of the games that when you heard about it in school or when you're with your friends, you're like, you have to go to the arcade and play this. Like they cannot duplicate it at a home console in 1989. There's no way they could do it. So it was like you put down your Nintendo, you put down your Sega Master System, and you went to the arcade because that's the only place you'd be able to play a game. Like the home consoles at that point haven't caught up to what they're doing with their arcade counterparts. Eventually, they would reach the same level and then exceed it and blow past them because you can't get the some of the experience you get the home console at the arcade. But we're still at the time where it's very much like get off your ass. You have to go to the arcade. You have to play this game. Come with like $10.
Yeah, well, and because you like that was the game that people waited in line to play the game. Like that's not, you don't really see that anymore.
No,
because it just isn't there.
You don't see arcades, period. Like
yeah,
you might see machines every once in a while. Like I'm sorry, I know there's a lot of people out there that like Dave & Buster's and shit like that, but they don't have no fucking games. I was in Dave & Buster's recently. They had no fucking games. They had like, you know, like carnival style Chuck E. Cheese type games when you win, you know, points or in some cases they still have the tickets, but there's no like fucking legit fucking arcade games out there anymore. You know, there's always a nifty little fucking like Jurassic Park game or something like that that's out there, but nothing to like. There's no fighting games. There's no Street Fighter 5 in the arcade. There's no arcades for them to go to. And then the arcades that are still around, you either have really old cabinets and really old games, or you know they have some of these newer games that are like, oh, I want to be a millionaire type fucking like quiz show games or whatever. Flappy Bird. And you're like, what the fuck is this? And it's completely ridiculous, and you know, it's sad to see because I think if you put out games for the arcade and you put some money behind it, I think you can get arcades going again because you know kids are looking for something to do, and you know they're not going to get that experience playing a mobile game on their iPad or on their phones. They're just not going to get that same experience. You know, it's a completely different animal. Like, yes, mobile games are fun. Some of them are better than others, obviously, but there's nothing like playing a game in the arcade. That's where it's at.
Yeah, one you just had like, I mean, you could play one game, but most people would like play a game for a while and then move on to different games. There was more, like you could do whatever. So I mean, you weren't just confined to, you have like a game that's like $60.
Yeah.
But you know, I don't know. It was just neat because it was like an event. But now it's not. But at the same time, it was just different. But it was like a different, I don't know, arcade just had a special feel, but it's like a nostalgia thing. But my kids like going to the arcade now and they have video games at home.
You know, it's funny because people say like, why do kids not buy toys no more? Right? They say, oh, they're with the electronics, they're with the phones, they're with the iPads, they're with the PlayStation 4s. That's why they don't buy toys. My counter argument is that if they produced good toys, kids would fucking buy them. Now, my daughter, 4 years old, she loves fucking toys. Like, yeah, she has an iPad. She watches YouTube for a little bit, but she's super into toys. We have the Barbie Dream House. We have the Barbie Corvette. We have this fucking ice cream truck fucking thing. My house is a fucking toy store right now. Right? The biggest toys for her right now: Num Nums, LOLs, or like ridiculous. I have LOLs all over my fucking house. It's insane. So she really likes those toys, and the way that she learned about these toys, obviously it's not by TV commercials because she doesn't watch really TV, it's by watching YouTube videos. So the marketing has changed. But, you know, when you go to a toy aisle today, and we'll talk about Ninja Turtle toys in a little bit, you go to a Walmart, you go to a Target, Toys R Us is closing, although there's rumors and innuendos that they might be bought out by somebody and bought back. KB might make a return. You know, you have your Think Geeks out there or whatever, they don't really have a whole lot of selection in terms of toys. But you walk into a Target, and it looks fucking terrible. Like, there ain't no fucking toys in there. Like, all I see is pegboard. I used to work in a toy department. All you see is pegboard, and there's nothing on the fucking pegs. You know, shelves are half empty. It looks fucking gross. You know, and you look at the toys and like, this is not cool. This is not good toys. And you take a picture of Target today, and you take a picture, you know, of Target or Toys R Us, and like in 1984, and you'll see a fucking stark fucking difference. And you know, people will play electronics all they want. They'll blame millennials all you want, and that's fine. But if you have a product that's good, kids would buy it. Bottom line. You know, that's the reality of the situation. Same thing comes with arcades. If they start putting out fucking arcades again, right? If I get some money, I'm going to build myself an arcade. You know, right on my main street in my town.
They have one like outside. It's like in the like a college town, and it's like $10, and you get unlimited plays.
Yes.
And you just go in, pay your $10, and then you could be there literally all day and play and beat at like every game in there. But it doesn't really cost that much for them to just run it. I mean, they just pay for the electric bill, and I guess pay like maintenance for the cabinets, but that's about it. So
well, even those are getting harder and harder to do because Capcom's not making parts anymore, so you have to rig some stuff up together to get them up and operational. But arcades could make a comeback.
Yeah, I don't know. My kids like toys. I don't know. Like my kids have electronics and access to them or whatever.
I think that narrative comes from people who don't have kids, so they automatically say, "Oh, kids don't play with toys," and that's not true. My wife says that the reason why kids don't play with toys as much is because the parents don't let the kids play with the toys inside the house because kids make messes, and I think a lot of households now are like, "No, don't make a mess. No, you can't do that. No, you can't do that. No, you'll choke on that. No, you get hurt by that." What the fuck? The kid can't go outside because you're afraid he's gonna get kidnapped. Right? You can't play with your toys because he doesn't want to mess up your house or he doesn't want to choke on a missile. So what the fuck are these kids supposed to do? They're gonna sit on their fucking ass and play an iPad game. Or play a game on their phone. Because that's all you're allowing them to do. So word to the wise, if you're a parent out there, let your kids fucking play outside. Come on. I live in a neighborhood full of kids. I never fucking see them. I never fucking see these kids. Never. It's like, what the fuck?
We can get into
back in my day, you leave at 8 o'clock in the morning and we'll come back home to dinner. And my parents had no fucking idea what the fuck that was. Now, would I let my kids fucking do that shit? No. A lot of creepers out there.
Yeah,
my parents were irresponsible. But there's a difference between being irresponsible and being a responsible parent that let their kids go out and do things, and being like you lock them in the house type shit.
My kids go out and play. They're older now, but they're like play with our neighbor kids or whatever. I think it's just harder now because parents are different. Like my parents let me do whatever. Which I mean,
used to have kids. They used to call it like calling for a kid, right? Oh, I'm on a call for this kid. So you used to walk up walk to the house and knock on the door and just ask for them.
Man, my kids do that now. I don't know, but I mean, like it's just like I think it's like a community thing. So
it is a community thing. I think us as parents, we understand that most of our parents were irresponsible. My dad used to never put me in a seatbelt and used to smoke with the windows up in the car. So, it was 1985. It was okay. There's a difference between that, which is totally irresponsible and ignorant of some of the dangers that are out there. But there's a complete difference of locking your kid inside the house and they can't leave ever.
That's true.
So
it's a balance between things.
It's definitely a balance.
Yeah.
Get your kids in the sports. I got mine in the sports. My daughter's a swimmer, she's a soccer, she does dance. So get them into sports. My son doesn't do anything.
Yeah, I don't know. My kids, I don't know. It's just weird. But yeah, I don't know. That's like a problem, like a social ill in the United States.
That's a whole show all on its own.
That's like a whole different show on a different channel. Like that's
the modern parenting is there's some strange people out there, man. I've seen that. I go to these birthday parties. I go to school every day. Man, there's some weird fucking parents out there. Everyone.
That's the thing. Too,
people forgot how to have conversations. All these parents are awkward and they don't want you talking to their kid and shit. And I'm with my kid. I can't say hello to this girl that's walking past me. Like, hey, how you doing?
And they're really weird. Like parents are weird. It's hard to find. I don't remember. I just always find it hard as a parent if the parents of the other kid are weird. It's you can't hang out with them because you're you're weird.
They look sketchy. You drive by their house and their house looks fucking sketchy as hell.
Back in the day, I mean, because it's just because you don't know people. So if you don't know people, it's scary because your parents could be fucking crazy. You don't know what's going on in that house. So even if the kid is good, you don't know what the parents are doing.
I'm just saying this: if my parents wouldn't let me to hang out with kids with sketchy parents, I would have had no friends. Because all my friends' parents were fucking sketchy as hell.
And it's different now, so it's harder to. I don't know.
It's so different. I would go over to my friend's house and eat dinner and shit.
Yeah, I'd lived it, but they had. Thing is too is I'm younger, so I'm only in my 30s, and my daughter is going to be 9. Yeah. So sometimes I go into a school, and I feel like I'm youngest person there.
I mean, I'm a little bit older than you, but I feel the same way. A lot of grandpa parents out there. It's like a lot of people are having kids much later, and I'm like, oh, that's your granddaughter? I was like, no, that's my son. I'm like, damn, you have to be like 70, bro.
Well, yeah, and it's weird too because I'm like the same age as the teacher, but then there's like parents that are like, well, I don't know. It's just very weird to me.
I still feel like the young, like when my son, because my son is 11. So
yeah,
like I'm like 25, 26, and I'm going to school functions and stuff, and I felt like the youngest person there.
I took my kids to like those trampoline places.
Yeah.
And we were like playing with our kids on the trampoline, and like none of the other parents were. Like, I mean, it was kind of like the richy part of town, so they were like ignoring their kids, right? But we were like playing with them, and like my kids are crying because I was like, we were playing dodgeball, so they're getting mad because I was like throwing dodgeball at them. And then, but I mean, I didn't hit them, but they were just being ridiculous. And then they got me back. And then, but no, so I just felt really awkward. I'm like, am I not supposed to be doing this? Like, am I just supposed to blissfully ignore my children and not do the fun things? Like,
sit in the corner on your phone or just fucking stand in the space and not do
yeah, I mean, you know, there's some times where like, you know, if I take him to the park, I'm not like gonna get up and run around with him every time. I don't want to play in the playground for the 15-minute time. Go make friends. You're old enough. Go be social. But it's like, I don't know. It's just a very weird balance of like.
I think it goes. A big portion of this too is the difference. And I don't want to be the get off my lawn guy because I'm not that guy. You know, I like modern stuff too. But when it comes down to, you know, Saturday morning cartoons in general, now Ninja Turtles had, you know, one of the longest running cartoons. I'm pretty sure it ran from 87 to like 96, which is an extremely long time for a cartoon of this nature. They usually run about 3 seasons historically. You know, the show itself, once you get past the first season miniseries, you know, it goes downhill very fast. From the animation to the voice acting, although it's the same voice actors, the scripts, storylines in general. You know, it goes into like, hey, we're trying to get 10-year-olds into our product to like, we want to get 3-year-olds into our product. Real, you know, some the cartoon itself doesn't hold up, you know, well, especially when you compare it to other 80s cartoons, whether it be a G.I. Joe, Transformers, Thundercats. I think He-Man holds up better than it did when I was a kid because that shit is hilarious. Like, if you look at He-Man Masters of the Universe as a comedy, like that shit is funny as all get out. You know, but when you compare it to some of the Japanese anime cartoons that came over to the States and any of the Sunbow or the Marvel shows, would it be Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends, you know, that level of quality definitely takes a dip by the time you get past that first miniseries. Anything past the first season is not going to be necessarily all that good. Not necessarily holds up very well. Now, a lot of people do love this show, but I think that has a lot to do with nostalgia.
Yes.
You know, it's like, oh, like they're so good. It's like, no, but it's not. It's like saying the Deke G.I. Joe version that came out in, I guess, the late 80s, early 90s with they did a story where Cobra and G.I. Joe have to team up to take out. They took down a drug dealer, which is fucking weird. They named the Headman, or like the New Adventures of He-Man, which was fucking terrible. Like this show, you know, it's pretty good. Like once you get deeper into the 90s and when it has to compete, even when it has to compete with like Batman animated series or X-Men or some of those shows, which I think is the last great era of, you know, children's cartoons, children's entertainment in general. You know, it doesn't stand the test of time, unfortunately. But and again, they had really good, you know, when it comes to characters, again, they really had to change up the cartoon quite a bit from the comic book because the comic book itself is gritty and it's in black and white and it's very, very violent. So they really had to change the characters to make them kid friendly. They got the multicolored bandanas and the first letter of their name on the belt buckle. You know, they're into pizza and Michelangelo's a surfer dude and a lot of those elements were not in the original comic book. But what was good about the original comic book is that when we all saw the first Ninja Turtles movie that came out in 1990, that's a more faithful adaptation to the comic book. Again, they made, you know, certain concessions to make sure that, hey, these are the Ninja Turtles that you saw from the cartoon as well. But that first movie is fucking dope as hell. When my son asked me, he's like, hey, what was New York City like in the 90s? I pop on Ninja Turtles, I'm like, it's like this. Like, why all those kids smoking cigarettes and cigars? Don't do that, but that's what we were doing back in the day. We were skateboarding, smoking cigarettes, stealing car stereos, and learning ninjutsu. Those are the things that we were doing.
I believe that. That sounds legit.
Now, the first movie is phenomenal. I think it's probably the best of all the Ninja Turtle movies. Now, some of the modern ones, you can take them or leave them. They're not as bad as some people make them out to be. They're also not as good as some people make them out to be. I think they're all right. But that first movie is like off the fucking hook, fucking really fucking good. That holds up extremely well. Again, it gives you just a snapshot of like New York City during that time frame, much like other movies. Like if you watch the Rocky movies, you see Philadelphia in the background. Like that's Philadelphia in the late 70s. Like, this is New York in 1989, probably when they filmed this movie. And it's pretty authentic. And again, it's historically at that time, properties who've made the jump from comic book to cartoon to movies, most of the time they're pretty awful. I mean, again, you're gonna have your exceptions to your rules, right? You're gonna have your Batman 1989, which is awesome. Obviously, the first Superman movie that came out, but by the time you get Superman 4, that movie is fucking a train wreck. But we've seen cartoons get made into movies. You step no further than that Master of the Universe movie that came out. That was fucking awful. Courtney Cox is in that movie. So that Master of the Universe movie is fucking terrible. I like the Punisher that came out in the 80s, that Punisher movie with Dolph Lundgren. Most people do not. I understand why people do not like that movie. That's fine. I have a soft spot in that movie. It's not the greatest movie in the world, but I enjoy the fuck out of that movie. But a lot of these properties were not being done well, and this movie was done extremely well. Can't say the same for its sequels. So, Luke, what are your thoughts on the Ninja Turtle movie?
I mean, it was really cool. Wanted to see it. Probably didn't. I was 5, so I probably didn't have as much appreciation for it as the cartoon and everything. It was like so much different from the cartoon, but it's still good. Darker, remember, than the cartoon. A lot more serious. But I don't know what happened with like the rest of them, like because the thing with the first movie is it doesn't really like follow the source material or whatever.
I mean, it does a pretty
the source material of the comic book, but not the cartoon.
Yeah,
be think about that. So it's much different from the cartoon. So being 5 and not knowing anything about the cartoon, it was like, what the fuck is this? But it was still good. But then the second one was like,
when you have Vanilla Ice in your movie, man, you got a problem.
Really, yeah, well, that and it's like they had the original Shredder in the first movie, and that was like okay, right? Because it's Shredder, it's still something. But then the second movie, they just create like random like bad guys for them to fight. So they like don't connect it to the comic book, and they don't connect it to the cartoon. They just go off the rails, and so it's
like they brought Shredder back. Shredder went and he wanted to make his own mutants to fight the turtles, right? So we get Tokar and Razor, the two mutants that, they're kind of like whatever the fuck, and it's not good. It's not as bad as Turtles 3, but there's definitely a dip in quality in terms of the look of the Turtles. Again, Jim Henson had passed away by this time, so he worked on the first Ninja Turtles movies. His company I believe did the second one too, but you can just tell that his presence was sorely missed. But yeah, that second Turtles movie, I mean, I like Vanilla Ice in movies for some reason. Like, Cool as Ice is an awesome movie. You should check that out because it's so ridiculous. Again, that's dripping with 90s nostalgia, the motherfucker. But yeah, when you watch that back, you see Vanilla Ice and they're dancing. It comes across way more sillier. And it comes across very dated. So when you watch it today, like, it's kind of cringy.
Yeah, and then third, well, they don't even talk.
We can't even talk about it. They go through time in their feudal Japan, and they look like shit. And you only saw half of a Splinter because they couldn't animate him walking for some reason. And that movie basically killed the franchise. So for a very long time because it was so fucking awful. I've seen that movie a bunch of times because I had it on a video cassette, and I just had it for. I don't know how I acquired the tape of this movie. But I just fucking had it for some reason, and I watched it a bunch of times when I was bored, and it's fucking shitty. I mean, they changed April from the first to the second one, they recasted her.
Yeah.
But it's like by the time we got the third one, I was like, this sucks. Everything about this sucks. No good. But again, when you're looking at the movies and then you get the action figures, again, this was the cartoon and the video game was essentially created to sell action figures, right? You know, again, it was a comic book first, then it was, you know, action figure line, and then they made the cartoons to sell action figures. That's pretty much how it worked. And this fucking toy line for Ninja Turtles is fucking ginormous. Like, the amount of toys that came out for this line is insane. The only thing that comes close to it, I think, is Star Wars. You know, when there were, you know, we had 6 movies a long time. That ran from, what, 78, 79 to like 85. So that ran for a long time, and you had a ton of action figures, play sets, and vehicles. But Ninja Turtles, much like Star Wars, shit ton of fucking vehicles and characters and variant turtles and play sets. It might be the last great toy line of this kind of genre. Power Rangers came out after that, but I don't think their toys were all that great to begin with, to be completely honest. You had some of the Marvel X-Men toys that came out during the same period, but you know, if you're looking like past like 1995, 1996 in terms of action figures, I think that's the end. G.I. Joe's gone, Voltron's gone, He-Man's gone, Thundercat's gone, Star Wars is gone for a little bit. They make a comeback because there have been movies coming out. Ninja Turtles were gone for a while, but then now the retro turtles. I saw retro turtles in Target not too long ago. I said, holy
Yeah.
shit, look at that, fucking A. But I thought their figures were really cool. I mean, they were, you know, they're Playmate toys. I guess is the the first time doing kind of, you know, this kind of action figures. And I thought they were you know, they were done, you know, really well. It got kind of ridiculous towards the middle and end of this this line when they start doing like, you know, samurai turtles and sumo turtles and like birthday turtles and I had one that you would fucking had was like a sewer fucking cap or whatever, a manhole cover on his back, and they would fucking talk and shit. Like, that was fucking stupid as hell. Got some of the movie turtles.
I had beach turtles, and you could fill them with water, and they would squirt water at you.
You squirt. It's gross.
Yeah, squirt water at you. It was gross. Well, I mean, whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think like the first line was really good. Like they had like the original turtles, like Splinter and Bebop and Rocksteady, and first like Shredder, Felt Cape, and then they had like Krang. So yeah, I mean, like they had, and then they just kept coming out with more. So it was like an endless supply of characters. But like if you got all the original runs, like towards later on, they just kept making the same. They just kept making like different variations of the turtles.
Yeah. No new
But then,
characters, no new nothing. And you know, that's gonna kill a line. But it did have some pretty good playsets. I had the sewer playset as a kid. Never got the Technodrome though. Other than that, been pretty sweet. But I got the sewer playset. I think I got like the motorcycle that had like the trash can on it. I think I had that.
The sidecar, I had that.
My cousin had the fucking blimp though, because he got all the toys.
Did he get the Technodrome though?
I don't remember if he had it. He probably did, because this fucking kid had fucking everything. He had like 4 or 5 Sky Strikers from G.I. Joe. This kid was ridiculous.
The Technodrome was ridiculous. Like, I don't know anyone that.
Yeah, it wasn't like when I was a kid. Everyone had like Castle Grayskull, the Snake Mountain, those playsets, but I don't really remember anyone having Technodrome all that much.
It was pretty big because the figures were pretty big. So
yeah, I mean they were definitely a decent size in terms of action figures. I mean, obviously they're gonna be bigger than your G.I. Joes and Star Wars, and I think they were probably bigger than Superpowers, which is a sweet toy line, by the way. We'll talk about that once we do when we do a different show. But yeah, the Ninja Turtles line is definitely interesting. You kind of look at these now, and like, are they great action figures? Like, posability is not the best, although those fucking figures are sturdy as hell. They're like, really hard to break, unless you break like some of the joints in them, and like they're unrepairable. But I think as an action figures, you can really beat the hell out of those, and they take a licking and keep on ticking. So
they lose their. If you broke their arms, on like if it like
the
pulled
shoulder,
out, it would. Yeah, but it would. Yeah, but you couldn't. It was really hard to pop back in. But
I mean, they came with tons of weapons too. I mean, I wish they took a little more details on the weapons because they were all one color.
beige,
Yeah,
and then
brown.
they, like cool, like Leonardo could like they had those like little rubber belts, so he could like hold his swords on his back or whatever.
Like if you got the original set, say you got the Turtles, Splinter, April, Rocksteady Bebop, and the Shredder, who just you can't stand that figure. Like he literally does not stand up. I don't know why.
Legs.
Yeah, like they're bent. I don't know what the fuck the deal is with that. You probably have to get a stand for them. But I think if you had like those 6 to 8 figures, on display, they probably look fucking beautiful. And they're probably, I mean, I'm not sure if the collector's market is all that big for the shows right now. But probably the original set's probably a decent price, probably not too expensive to get. You probably get the set for under $150.
They had the cool, really cool. They made some cool, like they had a robot turtle.
Yeah.
Whatever his name was. I mean, that thing was really cool. It was like looked like it was metal. It was like really shiny. And
they did a good job with that. I mean, they had that fucking samurai panda. They had the rabbit guy. I think it was Yoshadi Yojimbo, some shit like that. That sounds right.
Yeah, they had like a gecko.
Leatherneck was an alligator. They had those frogs.
Leatherneck was a cool bad guy.
Yeah. Rat King was fucking sweet as hell though. Rat King was.
And Baxter Stockman, that figure, he had like you could take his wings on and off, and then Krang and the robot Krang were really cool.
I think I had the robot Krang because I think I was able to put him in the belly.
Yeah, because they had the one where he was just Krang and he like walked around like he had a little. He walked in.
Yeah, it was just legs and shit, right?
Yeah, and then it has like robot body, and then you put like Krang inside there, but he was like hard to fit. But you got
like I collect Star Wars action figures, right? That's one of my other hobbies, right? Other than video games, right? And I'm looking into like getting a vintage line of like figures that I had from my youth, and like I have a hard time with it. I have a hard time. Like I want like a lot of collectors out there for the hunt, like hunting. They go to the Goodwills and they go to your yard sales, garage sales, what have you. They're looking for those figures, and I'm like, I just want to buy a set on eBay and walk away. But I have a hard time. Like I have so many Star Wars action figures at this point, and I'm not allowed to get any more, or my wife's gonna kill me. And I'll sneak in one every once in a while. I'm a modern Star Wars collector, by the way. I do have a set of vintage Star Wars action figures that I let my daughter play with because she thinks they're cool. Plus, they're literally unbreakable.
I didn't ever have Star Wars figures, but I did have a baby Ewok, and it was like it looked like a bear and it had red eyes.
Well, we both grew up during what some people call the dark times. And when it comes to, we'll talk about when we talk to Star Wars, but the dark times for Star Wars, it's post 1985 up until they started releasing Shadow of the Empire stuff. So there was like 85 to 93, 94. You had the Thrawn trilogy and what have you. But this is during the period where you're not getting a whole lot of video games, although some did come out. You're getting no toys. Action figures are gone. And if you're not playing role-playing Star Wars games, the content was very limited of what you can get. You were certainly not getting any action figures. You might get some models and whatever. But there was a whole fucking 6 or 7 year period where there were no Star Wars toys on the shelves. Like I had a Star Wars encyclopedia as a kid that taught me everything about Star Wars. And by the time Phantom Menace came out, all of it was wrong.
I have some old Star Wars books that like talk about stuff.
They reconned the EU so fucking much that a lot of people were pissed that they got rid of the EU when Disney bought it, but the EU was fucked up anyway. So it's like, yeah. So I mean, he was mad. He was mad OP too. He was way overpowered. Oh, Thrawn is all.
Yeah, I was gonna say Thrawn is pretty good. There's some cool stuff in the EU, but yes, a lot of it was just like I don't think people understand is like Star Wars, like it's cool, but there's not. It's like people get mad about the new movies, like the way they go. I'm like, but there's not a lot of places you can go with the original Star Wars trilogy.
I mean, there's certain things that I like. Anything with Kyle Katarn in it is good. Shadow of the Empire was good. Thrawn trilogy was good. Anything other than that, I don't know, man. It gets with Yuuzhan Vong and all kinds of crazy shit. Fuck that. That's weird.
Some of the Vong books were good, but it was weird when they killed Anakin off. And it was cool when like Jason Solo, like they had this one thing where they like were like they were like on this world ship where Anakin dies, and that was neat because it was like really dark. And then it was nice, like Jason Solo kind of like being like a gray Jedi. And
I'm
then
just
they
saying this. I'm just saying this. How come the rest of the galaxy didn't fucking round up all the fucking Skywalkers and kill them? Because fuck, you're responsible for so much fucked up shit, man. We will kill you all.
That's the thing too, is that people don't people were so angry that like Luke Skywalker, blah blah blah. I was like, what do you expect? Like the Jedi are literally the only, like they're literally the worst fucking thing ever. Like if you look at like the way that the Jedi, like the reason the Jedi had to die, or the reason they can't keep making Jedi, is because the Jedi as an institution became corrupt. Like that's what the whole prequels are supposed to be about.
People didn't understand that. I think people. I mean, I'm not a prequel hater. Yeah, there's some issues dialogue-wise, story-wise, right? But I don't think a lot of people don't understand the prequels at all. And I think a lot of people, a lot of younger cats out there, have a greater appreciation for the prequels because those were some of the first Star Wars movies that they saw. So, but I think the hate has lessened on those, and now they're all focused on Last Jedi. I think most people like were okay with Force Awakens, and I think a lot of people really did enjoy Rogue One. But I walked out of Last Jedi myself, and I was like, I liked the movie. It's visually stunning, and I thought it was really cool. And there's some parts of it I don't quite understand. There's some parts of it I don't quite like. But I walked out of that movie theater, I'm like, all right, guys, we are officially out of time. So for Luke Martin, Juan Cena, have a good night.